Welcome back to Two in a Pew, conversations on faith and creativity. I'm so excited to introduce you to my next guest. He's a super funny guy, a friend of mine, and a total joy to talk to, so you are in for a treat. He is the producer of the Bobby Bones Morning Show, which is broadcast in over 200 cities and stations across America. They bring in over 9 million listeners every day at every show, which is incredible. Just recently, they ranked number 4 as far as the top morning shows go on a poll by Straw Poll overall. So you're really again, in for a treat. I'm thrilled to invite him into the pew. Welcome, Ray Slater.
Yo, that is an awesome introduction. Thank you, Moriah.
I'm so glad you're doing this, and I so appreciate you.
Yeah.
You are probably, of everyone we've had in here so far, the most used to this type of microphone and just talking off the cuff, probably.
Right, but you're kind of ripping these podcasts left and right, so I think you're more used to it now than I am.
I guess that's just, maybe it's the stage, the stage experience, I don't know. But yeah, you have had a pretty long career at this point. I'm not trying to age you.
No,
or age myself for that matter.
I am not afraid of age.
Well, you've had a great career so far, and a long career in broadcasting and radio, which is a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
Starting out in Texas.
Yep.
And you've now, of course, made your way here because the Bobby Bones Show is based in Nashville, Tennessee, even though it's broadcast everywhere.
Correct.
But tell me a little bit about that. About your start out in Texas. I know you did a lot of different types of radio programming before. You were part of this broadcasting group. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was a student in college, and I was a public address announcer, and I was like, how can I get to the top of being a public address announcer? So I was a voice of Texas State Athletics. I would do a fake voice, and I'd be like, welcome to Texas State Athletics. And I was like the biggest thing there. And then I thought, what's bigger than that? And so I went to University of Texas, and I did it there. I did it at Round Rock Express. I did it at baseball games. And then I just felt like there was a cap to that. Not money-wise, I didn't really care about that, but I just really wasn't, there's no personality in being a public address announcer, but it did sound cool. And so then I knew always that I wanted to get to radio. I just knew radio was the way to do it. So I emailed a bunch of program directors, got the worst, most vanilla responses ever. They all tell me, man, this is a terrible industry. Never get into it. You're never going to get a job. Good luck, kid. But then in college, there's actually a specialty school, the radio school at Texas State. And I failed out of it. Like you had to pass the grammar, spelling, and punctuation test.
Ouch.
And I took it 3 times, never could get a 70, got like a 66, 67, 68. So I failed it. I was not allowed to take any radio classes.
Oh my gosh.
And so ironically enough, here we are doing radio, talking radio, but I failed right out. So I had never taken that. So I did TV then. I was able to do a little bit of TV.
Okay.
I did a TV internship, and I went to like a football game, and I saw some radio guys, and they were just laughing and having so much fun. I thought, well, here on TV, we're not having fun like they are. Maybe I should do an internship. So I was doing sales, and I just started an internship as a graduate. I'd graduated from college. And so you were able to get community college credit. And I started at an internship, met Bobby Bones in the hallway. He said, I like you. And I was an intern, and he brought me to Nashville. I was, 24, 25. And I was then full time. But it's crazy, though, to think I was chosen over people with more seniority just because he thought I was good. He thought I was creative, and I'd be an asset, I guess.
How much of that then, when you're working with a team, because Bobby Bones Show has multiple people that are key players. How much of that is just true, genuine connection and ability to move in and out together like freely, you know?
Yeah, no, they have a chemistry. So you got Bones, Lunchbox, Eddie, Morgan's in that room as well, Amy. But Amy, Lunchbox, and Bones have been together for 10 years. So think about it. Them in that room, I mean, they've been chopping it up with each other, doing these segments about each other's lives that they know for years. But that's the craziest thing about communication and dynamics. You take them and you put them at a dinner table, it's a completely different conversation. Sometimes it's not as smooth, it's not as funny, it's not as one-liner.
Right.
But their ability to go in a room and, okay, you're the woman angle. I'm the Bones, I'm the funny guy. Lunchbox, you got to get a good one-liner. I mean, their ability to do that, that's I guess the reason we're top 4 in the straw poll.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you are competing in a market that is full of comedy, really. In my opinion, when I was looking at that lineup, I thought, wow, this is like not just your regular morning show. It's really comedy heavy.
Definitely.
And entertainment focused.
Right, because you got to think, we're trying to entertain moms in their vans. That's our demographic. So they're going to school.
That is your main.
Yes. It's not a truck driver. It's not a guy. So even though I am a guy, we're trying to entertain women. So, and I guess women want to laugh in their vehicles.
Right. Yeah. Women love to laugh in their vehicles.
Yeah, so you tell us.
Yeah. I am not a mom, but I will tell you I have a vehicle and I love to laugh in it and sing along to stuff. So you're really, you got a corner on the market for sure. I know that your background growing up, you mentioned that you grew up in the country and kind of far away from a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Is that where you feel like your creativity and kind of acting out and you're finding your voice started, or did that come along a little bit later in your life, finding that voice that you now use really in your whole career?
Right. Yeah, I would say, I mean, I learned my voice honestly in college through communications classes and stuff. I don't necessarily think I was sitting down at a dinner table having a debate with my parents. It was, you really weren't really allowed to like talk back to my parents. So, I mean, there was, oh, this dinner's really good, Mom and Dad. But it's not like we would ever just like, all right, we're going to do the Republican and Democratic national debate right now. I mean, that never happened. So I didn't really work on my communication with them that much. But being in the country, me, my brother, and my sister, I mean, we invented everything. We created everything. A lot of time we didn't have cable. So, I mean, if we thought something was funny, it was because one of us did it, not because something we saw on TV. And then if I heard something, my friends, they would always just tell me stuff at school to be like, oh, yeah, there's this quote from a movie, life is like a box of chocolates. And so then I would just repeat it. I'd never even seen Forrest Gump.
Right.
And I just said it because they said it. Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of the stuff I learned, it was really from my brother and my sister, just trying to entertain each other in the country. And then eventually we got cable and we're like, we're back with the rest of the world.
Yeah, caught up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's actually really powerful and interesting because I also grew up in a house with no cable. And we played outside or we listened to a lot of music or we played our own music. And my mom and my dad both would sing in the house. And that had such an influence on me. The like ability, but also like the necessity of creating your own entertainment and creating your own fun out of nothing really can last a long. It might seem like an uphill battle when you're a kid and you see other people with we didn't have Nintendo or any of that stuff. So other friends' houses, I'm like, dang, they got stuff. We had no stuff. But looking back, that was such a great way to let your mind go free. And like you said, kind of imagine, create those scenes in your mind and like fill it out, act it out.
Yep.
That's amazing. And that's really what you do now, would you say? Like you're creating a lot of bits. Maybe I'm using the wrong language here.
No, that's perfect. That's actually industry talk right there. That is inside baseball.
Dang.
Yes.
Dang. Well, you are in charge of a lot of that and bring a lot of that to the table. Where do you foster those ideas and spur them? How do they come around for you?
Yeah, my biggest thing with that is, and first of all, I'm not in charge of all this creativity and stuff like that. We have an executive producer. There's other producers, and everybody on the show does show prep. And so a lot of the listeners don't realize that. But every day I'm submitting personally 3, and then also news stories with an angle to each member on the show. So I mean, that's 8 times 5. There's 40 different idea heavy creative things that we do a week. So as long as you set out your week, like, okay, every day I've got to do 8 of them. And then you can jump ahead. All right, what if I do 16? Then I'm good until Wednesday.
Right.
And so that's how you really get ahead of the game and you're able to be creative. If you just wake up in the morning on Monday, oh my gosh, I got to come up with 8 things. You're not going to be creative. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, what you realize in my industry is everything leads to creativity. So it's like, I'm in this room, I'm seeing all these cameras. I'm not thinking of an angle right now, but I am thinking I'm talking on this podcast. Maybe there's a clip from this that I may use on the Bobby Bones show.
Right.
And then we'd cross-pollinate and cross-promote. So, I mean, if you're creative, you've really just got to see life if you want to be ahead in creativity. Or you can just like keep cruising through and just, I need an idea. I need something. Oh my gosh, you call your wife. You're like, what's something you like? You're a woman. You're our demographic.
Yeah.
But I got ahead of the game and it's been so much easier. So I'm able to just free flow. I'm always taking notes. Just for this, I did a Google Doc, just some ideas and stuff I want to talk about. And so you see stuff like randomly. I was at Chick-fil-A and the dude goes, your name's Ray? And I go, yeah. And he goes, Ray, a drop of golden sun, like the movie, like, what is it, Dorothy or something like that?
No, not Dorothy.
Willy Wonka.
No, definitely. It is Sound of Music.
Thank you. I knew you'd know.
Yeah, I do. I'm not even going to fight that because I know that I look very much probably like someone who watches The Sound of Music. Dang, so pegged, so pegged.
I took that idea and I was like, what if every time I came on the show, they go, Ray, a drop of golden sun. And so that's an idea. It's something I'll pitch later. But it's because I'm ahead of the game. Maybe with writing and other people's endeavors with creativity, it's different. With mine, get ahead of the game. Every week you got 40 things you got to do. How many do you want to do on Saturday and Sunday? And then your week's pretty easy.
Do you allow yourself a little margin for spontaneity then? Like, how do you build that into, because clearly scheduling out is something that can help foster and produce more creativity freely. Do you leave a little wiggle room in there for the moment? And
well, I mean, definitely with live radio, there's always spontaneity, but you always kind of know everybody's angle. You know that Amy's gonna be the caring one. You know that Bones is gonna bring some angle. He's gonna like try to debate you. Right. Lunchbox is gonna have just like a total alpha male rip you apart. Eddie's gonna throw something at you that's confusing and you're like, what are you talking about? But so you already know kind of what their angles are. So then I say something, I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to be an astronaut. And we know that Bones is going to be like, do you really know there's schooling that goes into it? So I'm going to have some answers to that. You already kind of know where they're coming from. But yeah, there's always spontaneity. And then sometimes you look stupid on the air, but it's live, so roll it. As long as you don't say a bad word, nothing gets dropped. So
right. That kind of folds right into something I really would love your perspective on, because I've talked about this before, but creativity, and most people that I know that are creative-minded primarily have a little bit of a brave streak, because it takes a lot of bravery to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable, to try new things, and to think outside the box. So everyone I know that is that more creative-minded type of person has a little streak in them, whether it comes out all the time or not. But you particularly, just knowing you for a long time in your hangout personal life, you're pretty fearless with the things you're willing to say and act in public, and just you're like such a fun, goofy guy that's always bringing a lot to the table in that way with just your friend group, but also in your career you bring that, and that takes a level of fearlessness, which I believe really creativity kind of needs, but that's a scary place to be. How do you maintain that, and how do you shake off or ignore, or maybe you don't, but you tell me those feelings of like, what do people think? What will they think? Or how am I being perceived right now?
Well, I mean, if I cared what people think, I'd never get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, because I get ripped on all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, you're too short, you're balding. It's like, if you really let that stuff affect you, I mean, you get one life to live. You can live it any way you want to. I'm just not going to be a loser. You know, I'm not going to sit in and be all sad about, everybody has problems. So, I mean, I've never been affected by what people say about me, but also like sometimes with the bits on the air or whatever, and there's been ones that are like endurance based. So there was one time I had to fist pump for 24 straight hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, that's fearless. And so, you do that and then you're like, oh my gosh, I was able to do that. Then we did a local charity thing in town. I danced for 24 straight hours.
Wow.
Right. And so, yeah. So then I'm like, okay, I'm the endurance guy on the show, And so that's like creativity. I don't know who came up necessarily with those ideas. That's the beauty of it. Everybody's bringing so many ideas. You never necessarily know exactly who came up with the exact idea. But yeah, then we roll with that. And did I want to go fist pump? No. Did I want to dance for 24? No. But I mean, it's almost just kind of like feet to the fire. Let's rock it. And I mean, maybe that's what got me brought to Nashville. I mean, who knows? Yeah.
That ability just to go for it without really overthinking it, maybe?
Yeah, definitely not overthinking it, because I know before I did the fist pumping for 24 hours, it made national news. It was all over the place. Oh my God. It was kind of crazy, actually. There's pictures all over the internet of me with my shirt off. Do not Google them. Don't Google them, kids. But no, before I did that, I had worked a shift at the radio station. I wasn't even thinking clearly. I was exhausted.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I did it on pure adrenaline. So yeah, there was really no time to just sit in my house and say, I wonder what people think of me.
That's so funny. And I'm trying to picture that in my mind, and maybe I shouldn't picture it like you said, but.
Well, and I think the time when you and me, we went out to the bar, our whole group, and I think there was a fireman's pole, and y'all are like, you guys you should climb it. And I climbed it. And to me, that's just, you never think twice to do stuff.
Right.
Probably should think more about it now that I'm soon to be older. Yeah. I don't want to break something.
Soon to be older.
Yeah. But no,
every minute.
Sometimes you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
But that is unique to you, though, I will say. Like, not everybody is so free to just be like, I'm not going to think about this. I'm just going to go. Is that something that you feel like is really, really just supernatural to you? Or is that something that can be developed over time to shake off some of those concerns or worries, especially when it comes to, because I feel like it might be even two different things. One, personality-wise, just out and about. Two, creating something, now you've collaborated and actually written a couple songs as well, which is a little bit outside your comfort zone, but
Way
you did
outside.
it. Yeah. But that's one of those choices where you're really putting yourself out there. Do you feel like that's a trait that can be developed, or is it one that's more just naturally ingrained?
Definitely can be developed, because honestly, I was a little nervous at times, and I remember in high school, some kid goes, "Hey, you'd be better than this lady that's public address announcing." So all my friends pushed me out onto the court to go announce. I didn't really have time to think about it. I just did it. I was nervous. I was really nervous. So, I mean, that was definitely developed. I did it all through high school. Then I did it all through college. I had that confidence. So, I mean, if I would have never had that experience, I would have never had that confidence. So, yeah, it could definitely be developed. And then I had positive feedback.
Sure.
I mean, if I'd been terrible, I'd have been, maybe I should do something else. But I had parents coming up to me. They said, "Oh my gosh, you were the best public address announcer." So then I believe the lady that was doing it was 75 years old. So I had to go tell her that I was going to be replacing her.
Oh my gosh. How did that go?
It was pretty bad, but she was a sweetheart. And she said, I'm finally prepared to hand over the microphone. And she handed over the microphone.
Wow.
Sweet old lady.
What an honor.
Never forget that.
Yeah, no kidding. How gracious she was to just pass it off to you.
She really was. I just thought about that right now for the first time in forever. But yeah.
Wow.
And then honestly, when I was in college, kind of figuring out your ways, you're like trying to get your sea legs. That's when I just decided to run a marathon. Because I thought, if I can do this, I could probably do anything. And so I was like, because I really didn't think I could do it. My parents, they were like, "Hey, should we fly in and watch it?" And I said, "I honestly don't know if I can do it." And so I just kept training. Didn't tell any of my friends I was going to do it. Just woke up, did it, texted my parents, "Hey, I think I'm going to do this." They tracked I put it on my shoe, like a little GPS thing, before there was the Apple iWatch or whatever. Oh my gosh. And so they tracked me all around Austin, Texas, and saw that I completed it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, then after I did that, I'm like, pretty much do anything, right?
That's true. I mean, anytime you overcome a big challenge, it is like, it tees you up to be like, at least so I have that one thing I can point back to and fall back on, if nothing else, if all else fails. That's wild. Did you always see yourself in an entertainment role when you were younger, like growing up? Did you see that coming for you, or did you ever have any other types of aspirations that you might go into?
I'll tell you this, in the yearbook, 4th grade, 5th grade, it will literally say, "Look on TV in 20 years and you're going to see my face." I believe that's the only thing I put on there, and everybody, I mean, in my school, I was in country school, grew up in the country. Nobody thought about TV or radio or anything. So I was for sure the only person that put that. And then I actually made it happen, put it into fruition. So which is pretty cool. But I will say I kind of strayed from that when I started to do sales after college, because I graduated and they had this sales, what it was, a job fair. And my girlfriend at the time, she was like, "Hey, we should go to this job fair and get jobs." And I go, "Yeah, that's a great idea. We're about to graduate and be unemployed." And so I go there, and there was a telecommunications thing, and I go, "All right." And it said, the only reason I did it was it goes start January 1st. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I'll graduate and can start right after the holidays.
Yeah.
This must be God telling me I need to start this job."
This is a sign.
So I did it. I did it for 8 months. Honestly, I will tell you, I ended up getting really good at it, and it was fine. It was a great job. I was making, you could get commissions. So I was getting base pay and commissions. It was great, but I knew I always wanted to get into entertainment. So I would tell my coworkers, I said, "Hey, I'll give any of you people $1,000 if you get me a job in radio." And they never did. They all tried. And then that led to me trying to get an internship. But I did that for 9 months, and that's what really kind of fueled my fire. And it probably was a God thing to realize, hey, I'm not meant to live this cubicle life.
You're right.
I'm crushing these cable sales. I would do cable, internet, and phone. And it was awesome. But I just knew that I something was telling me. There was a push, a nudge on my back.
Yeah.
And so then that's how I got into radio.
Is your relationship with God throughout your life, is it something that has felt like a guiding force, or is it something that kind of pops in and out as far as those whispers and nudges?
Definitely a guiding force, because I was going to a Christian school. Right out of high school, I went into a Christian school in Chicago, Olivet Nazarene University, and it was very expensive. So that's honestly why my parents were saying, hey, you went there for 2 years and it's getting really expensive. I believe it was increasing in tuition. And I'd actually emailed the president of the university and I said, hey, can I get a $5,000 grant for being the public address announcer? And he said, yes. And he gave me that. But then I think it kind of ended. So my parents go, hey, something's got to happen. And so then I just felt a nudge, a guiding light, whatever it was, that I needed to move to Texas, chase. I don't know why Texas, but I just needed to chase TV, media, everything. And as crazy as it was, every credit from that private Christian school transferred to a public university in Texas. Everyone, even the Bible classes.
Yeah.
I don't know what they converted the Bible classes into, but everything did. So I didn't fall behind at all.
That's amazing.
And it was just wake up, apply, got accepted that summer. Came home I was working at a lumber mill, and my mom said, here's your plan. And I go, hey, Mom, I want to go to this school in Texas. If you and Dad don't think we can afford it, let me know. And I came home from a gig at doing a lumber mill, and she's like, here's your ticket. We bought it for you. And so I was like, rock.
Oh my gosh. So it's a kind of a sure sign like this on every box was checked, really.
Yep.
Like family, the credits transferring over.
Yeah, the one thing was, though, I had to prove that I could get in-state tuition within a year. So the first day I landed there in Texas, I had to get a job. So I started working at a gas station, and I had employment for an entire 12 months, fought the board of Texas State, and got in-state tuition within a year. If there's anybody else that's ever done that, let me know, because I'm pretty sure I'm the first.
First, possibly the last.
Because I don't live there anymore. I live in Tennessee.
Oh my gosh. It is funny that you just woke up and chose Texas instead of, like, usually people immediately think LA, New York, Nashville as far as entertainment goes, but Texas was just on your mind, on your radar.
Well, I had met people at the private Christian school, and they lived in Texas. Okay. One of the dudes actually transferred to Texas State. My buddy South Beach, and me and him went together. Had never seen the campus. Rolled up in his SUV, 24 a Miller Lite in the back, and just rolled in.
Did you say South Beach? Is that
that's
his
nickname?
Name? Okay. How this will be interesting, probably for literally everyone. How have you lived this life and accumulated so many people with different nicknames along the way? Like, I don't know anyone else besides you who has so many friends with a very specific nickname. How has that happened for you?
I love that you pointed that out, because for some weird reason, I'm the nickname guy. My nephew, his name's Tristan. I called him Boomer.
Yeah. Immediately Boomer.
I call you Moriah. I don't know. I'm not giving you a nickname.
I don't know if I should take offense to that or if I should feel proud.
Our buddy Eric Dodd, call him Dodd.
Dodd.
But yeah, Dodd. I feel like maybe it's just the guys in my life. My wife, I call her Baser.
Yeah.
I give people nicknames. I don't know why.
Well, it sticks, and it's kind of a signature move, I guess. Now, party trick.
There you go.
In your career life, speaking of party tricks, what do you feel like is your key flavor or instinct or stamp that you really bring consistently to the table to everything that you do? If you can kind of qualify that.
Yeah, I would say the one thing, I mean, honestly, I did this stupid thing, like when we'd play games on the Bobby Bone Show, I started going, yeah! And as odd as it is, the listeners thought it was really cool. So they have made me continue to do it for 10 years.
Wow.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but I still do that. And I'm like about to be a 40-year-old guy, and I still do, yeah! And we made a clothing line, and it was very successful for a year, and then it failed.
Oh, man.
But yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's quotes. I hate saying the cliche stuff. Like, I smile every day. I have a great attitude. I will say I'm punctual. I've never missed a day of work. I've never been late. I get up every day at 1 a.m. So
1 a.m.
Yeah.
Why?
Not randomly, but back in the day when I first moved here as an intern, I got ripped on. It would be mistake, boom, blame Ray,
Wow.
all the time.
Yeah.
Bunch of signaling. Hey, he did the wrong thing. He did the wrong thing. Who really did? I don't know. But we even got fined $1 million by the FCC.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Was I at fault? I don't know. I didn't get fired.
You're still here?
Yeah, they aired some tone and it broadcast all over America.
Oh my gosh.
And it was an emergency alert tone.
Oh no.
I know.
You know, I feel like that happens a lot in East Nashville. So if you're to blame, could you get that under control? I will tell you, it's getting old.
But I realized from that, hey, if you get up earlier, what if you double check? What if you triple check your work? And then I started to find out that I wasn't getting blamed. No mistakes were being had. And so then it just became a thing. And I just always get up. Now I integrate the gym into it. I do a lot of my creative work. And there's also no voices. I mean, so I'm doing creative stuff. I'm doing audio. There's not an F word that doesn't miss my ears. Like when I'm doing, there's a fight on a plane. If there's people talking in the studio, you're going to miss an F word. Me, I hear it all. I bleep out the F word. That keeps us from getting fined.
Yeah.
But you can only do that at 1 a.m. So people question it all the time. To me, it's practical and it's functional.
Right. That's so early. But I have heard that from quite a few people, though, that they feel like they get their most, find that their life is most efficient when they cram in a little bit at the beginning before the rest of the world is up and hassling you and calling you and texting you and trying to get in your space. How do you feel the most creative in your life? Is it that time, or is it when you're really relaxed and well rested, or how do you find that you are the most creative?
It's definitely not well rested, and I've almost created a science with it. If I get over 7 hours of sleep, I'm less creative. If I get less than 4, you're almost drunk. You should get more than 4 hours of sleep. But I feel like the sweet spot is between 5.5 and 6.5. Wow. And I'm creative. I'm on point. I'm not like the funniest. Bones is the funniest guy in the room, but I feel like I'm my best self at those amounts. With 1% of a hangover. I'm kidding. But yeah, honestly, it's something like that.
That's the faith part of this podcast.
Yeah. But if I sleep for 10 hours, the next day I'm a puddle.
Yeah.
For me personally. So
interesting.
If it's a day where I know that I have to do a Sunday, say I'm trying to load up for the week with a lot of creative stuff, I'm not going to sleep 10 hours before. You can't do that to yourself.
You mentioned that you do create this schedule for yourself where you're always bouncing ahead about 24, 48 hours ahead of time to give yourself that room. When you're able to do that, and it sounds like it's a little bit more of a recent thing that you've started to fold that into your schedule to create that space. What was the catalyst for making that decision? And then also when you have that little cushion, so you're always about 24, 48 hours ahead, what do you do with the rest of that time? Are you just now still 24, 48 for the next 24, 48? Or do you allow yourself a little daydream time?
The daydream time, honestly, is perfect. That's really where you come up with your best ideas. There was one time I came up with an idea. It hasn't been invented yet, but we had a Shark Tank person on, Barbara Corcoran, and for the idea, she offered me $20,000. And I came up with the idea by being 24, 48 hours ahead of time.
Right.
I wasn't trying to come up with that idea. I just randomly thought of it, driving by bars downtown, and I was like, man, there should be like a credit card for college students. We're still working on it.
It's in the works.
Yeah. Or maybe not. I don't know. Somebody steal that idea. But I feel like the getting ahead of it seemed like stuff was getting sprung on us because at the time Bones was doing Dancing with the Stars, he would do TV, and we'd get a text message. I'm not comparing us to hospital workers, but we'd get a pager, like we're an ER nurse, and it'd be like, hey, come to the studio, we got to do this.
Oh, my
and I'm like, I didn't prepare ahead.
Yeah.
Through that, 2018, 2019, started preparing ahead, and I've never looked back.
Yeah. Were you kind of a dreamy kid when you were little growing up?
Yeah. I can distinctly remember just my mom. I would be in the living room, and we had cable. I was being dramatic before, but eventually we got it and stuff.
I wasn't being dramatic. We literally did not have cable.
Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
We had
Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. She knew it.
I knew it immediately.
But no, my dad had bunny ears, so he got us like 4 channels. But I would watch TV, and I would always just get bored, and my mom knew I wanted something more. I wanted to be active. And even my friends say that. They always go, man, what's cool about you than other people is when we, say we go out drinking, the next day, dude, I always want to get up and do something. They say that's why we love you. Unlike anybody else, nobody else does that, but I just do. I'm just an active guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Just always engaged.
Yes.
I will say that just from knowing you a little bit more personally, you're super funny, kind of always on in some ways, but you're also a pretty sensitive guy, and you're a pretty tenderhearted person.
I know. We have had some tenderhearted hugs.
I mean, you really are, though. You have a really, really big heart.
Thank
and you're very attuned to the people around you and the conversations around you and kind of the vibe of the room all the time, is my sense.
Thank you.
And that is such an interesting combo with that really sharp comedic side that's kind of showy and out there. How do you balance that for yourself? Is any part of that protecting one or the other? Do they conflict for you? Do they fuel each other? How do you balance those two very different sides of your personality?
That's an interesting question. I know that I've always been, I guess, whatever my mom would say, a social butterfly. Mm-hmm. So I just, not that my wife gets so mad at me when I try to entertain, because I'm not like a stand-up comic. I don't know what I'm trying to do, but I don't know. I always just want people to have fun and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And through having fun, then hey, how's your day been going? But I don't really just want somebody's like generic blasé answer. Mm-hmm. I always want, like, how are you really doing? And then that's when we have those heartfelt moments. I mean, why else were we put on this earth to just like go through life and never like shed a tear? Like I get guys are supposed to be manly and stuff, but you have to hug people, which I still have to tell myself every day. Yeah. As guys, honestly, we just really, I know it's a new generation and stuff, but guys weren't supposed to hug. Like we were taught to be tough and manly and stuff, but you're supposed to hug. You're supposed to like cry and let them cry on your shoulder and show emotions. I mean, otherwise, what a pointless, empty life.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion.
Totally.
IMO. But those are also sometimes the best moments. I mean, we've had so much fun at our friends' houses and stuff. But honestly, some of the most special times is when we have shed a tear together and we've hugged. Those are awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I appreciate that in other people so much. I just always think it's so interesting when that side can be so prevalent and so real and authentic at the same time as also being able to just kind of put on. I know from my experience too that being on and having like, showtime, like ready to go. While that is 100% authentic and who the creative person completely is, it also is, you kind of have to take a deep breath and prepare yourself a little bit and get ready for it and engage in it. So, it's just it's a really interesting contrast, but also I think is tied a bit. You have to have a bit of sensitivity, I think, in order to be curious enough to find what would be touching or funny to somebody else, or be in tune enough to know what may or may not land for people, and to get like really in touch with that. You have to have a bit of a sensitivity, I would think, to anticipate that in some ways. Yeah, and honestly, just spending time with people, that's how you get a feel. I mean, you're not just going to walk into a room and start making sexist jokes. I mean, I don't do that anyways, but you always just try to, I mean, honestly, you want to make people laugh, and you kind of see what made them laugh one time, and you're like, oh my gosh, I loved when they laughed. Oh, I'm going to make my wife laugh because I like when she's happy like that. Totally.
Yeah.
And then how does that translate then into your work life, where you're come up with these bits all the time, and you're, or you're responding to other people's ideas and participating, and this is daily. This is all the time. This is not like y'all are gearing up for a movie one time, then you're done, then take a break. This is constant. Yep. How do you keep that energy going with it being a daily practice, daily work effort?
Yeah, definitely a challenge. You're coming up with 40 ideas, including news stories that you try to want to make them like angled toward the host. So you can't make a news story about a camera. How's anybody going to relate? Make a news story about a dog. Two of the hosts have, or they all have dogs. Boom, there they can relate to it. That's an angle. But I like to do long-term stuff too. So I mean, one of the longest running bits in the history of the show is I made a bet on Donald Trump to be the president of the United States. Oh my gosh. And he won. Yeah. And he was the president of the United States. And then I won $50,000. Oh my God. But the gambling website never paid me. And so that was like that. I mean, that's still to this day. People still call in and ask about it. Wow. So, I mean, talk about creativity. That was 10 years of creativity. Yeah. So long term, honestly, if you can come up with something like that, not just this will work for today's show, something that has like a little bit of legs is awesome, because then it can just go.
Totally.
Yep.
What would you say you're the most proud of all the different things you've done? Like starting even back when you were in Texas and doing more of the sportscasting stuff, and interning, getting out here to Nashville, all the different iterations of what you've been as part of the Bobby Bones Show, or even maybe even a little bit of songwriting you've dipped into now. What would you say you're the most proud of career-wise and or creatively?
For me, honestly, it was the no quit times. And I remembered it was during my internship with radio. There was that moment when my internship ended and you're supposed to be kicked out of the building. And I go, oh my gosh. So I didn't have a job. So I just told myself, I'm just going to stay in the building, and nobody kicked me out. And so I just stayed in the building for like a year, and then they made me start doing another internship. But very quickly, I got a job. So what I'm saying is
Wow.
I just illegally stayed in a building for a year because I knew there was no other option. I didn't quit. I could have moved home and then I'd have never done radio and all that. But at that moment, I mean, July in 2000, I want to say like 2009, July 2009.
Wow.
Boom. In that moment, never quit. And because of that, I'm here right now, sitting two in a pew.
Yeah.
But
the real highlight of your career.
the other no quit was, I mean, there was a time when I wanted to quit the Bobby Bones show. My wife had cancer, and I was like, it was so hard because at the time, I believe we didn't have an executive producer. Now, I got 3 other producers working under me. Right. Back then, it was all me. Wow. Anything you heard on the air, I touched it. Now, run it. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm still.
You have no idea what's going on now.
I'm still hands on, but wow, I have so much more help.
Yeah.
And at the time, they were trying to find executive producers. It was tough, but there was I believe it was 18 months we went without an executive producer.
Wow.
So I was doing 2 people's jobs, and my wife had cancer.
Yeah, during the hardest time of your life.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe the only time I took off Rascal Flatts was in studio. My wife was, I believe, getting her operation done, where she was getting the cancer removed from her body, and I go, I got to go.
Yeah.
Other than that, didn't miss a minute, didn't miss a day.
Wow. That type of dedication and staying power does rub off on people around you. I mean, I think that's one of those things that's, even when we're not intending to affect the people around us, we're doing it even for our own ambitions or drive and or necessity, however those things land. They do show to the people that are around us that like, oh, that person didn't quit. Mm-hmm. What drove you to just never quit in those times? Whether it was the first time of like getting like my internship's done, I'm staying in the building, that, or even that, the time when Laura was sick, which I understand very much, going through that same thing of how emotionally and physically taxing it can be to go through all that and then still be showing up so much. And that's I will give you credit for being probably your biggest no quit moment, to be honest with you, just knowing personally. But yeah, what was the main driving force for that keeps you dedicated and going? Definitely
prayer, and we just knew. I mean, my wife had cancer. She goes, she's not going to quit. So I mean, I'm not going to quit my job. But I mean, it's those moments where, I mean, you got somebody else that's not quitting. You're like, all right, I'll go with you.
Yeah, we're doing this thing.
Exactly. And so, I mean, yeah, it's stuff like that where it felt like a God thing. It just felt like I wasn't supposed to quit my job at that time, even though it was so much. And I knew there'd be a brighter day. And in 2023, folks, I've got 3 producers under me, and it is awesome.
Yeah.
And I knew this day would come.
Right.
But I just had to see it through.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, because I know you're a man of faith and have been like for a majority of your life at this point, you work in very mainstream business, mainstream radio, and you're surrounded by, comedy, like a lot of comedy and a lot of and a lifestyle, entertainment lifestyle. How important has your faith stayed or grown in that, in your career life, like mixed into it? And also, how do you see that? How do you see your lived out faith dropped in the middle of the context of the entertainment industry? It's not like something that you talk about all the time. It's just more of what you live. How do you see that? How do you see that living through you in the context of the industry that you're in?
Honestly, I hope it, if you go to work and you got a smile on your face, I mean, and you're not trying to get in fights with people, I mean, that means you're a Christian. I mean, people you see on the news, they're fighting, probably ain't Christians. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they need a little God in their life.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be fighting on an airplane. So for me at work, if I can just, we work so hard. Sometimes I don't smile and I feel terrible about that. But if people can just know, he's a Christian. He has to be, because he doesn't try to just fight people. He doesn't try to be jealous. Stupid stuff like that. And the original question about Christianity, going to Baser, I feel like honestly we went to church the most when when she was going through cancer, and that strengthened it. But yeah, I've gone to church my entire life, but I feel like we were dialed in with the church scene right then, and it was awesome. And yeah, it was a big part of my life.
Really sustaining.
And I mean, we can still feel it today. I mean, she has the most amazing relationship with her parents. Our relationship is better than before she had cancer.
That's amazing.
So it's because of church, it's because of faith, it's because of her beating cancer and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just pulling through all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really bonding experience, for sure. What interpersonally, but also with God, kind of feeling that presence the whole time. That's awesome. So, like your faith, do you feel like it really mostly translates by the way that you treat others and what you bring to the table, as far as the way you treat coworkers? You brought up, not being jealous. I know, like, entertainment industry, sometimes there's a lot of comparison and this and that going on. So just the way that you treat people, that's how your faith really plays through you.
I would hope. And for me personally, just by not being jealous, I mean, honestly, everybody's grass is greener. It's the radio industry. You have all these A-list stars, Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, they walk through, and in 10 years, I mean, they built mansions and they've got millions of dollars. And you're like, what have I done in 10 years? I mean, how can you not be jealous? Yeah. You just got to realize, I mean, the Lord doesn't want us to be jealous. He said, don't do that. That's not something you're supposed to do.
Right.
That's one of the deadly sins.
It
has to be.
It has to be. If I remember correctly, yes, that's.
But yeah, I mean, honestly,
a big no.
If people would just see that in me, like I never saw Ray throw a punch. Yeah, because I'm a Christian. That's not how Christians act. I never saw Ray belittle somebody or like talk absolute crap behind their back, because he's a Christian. Christians don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Sometimes people feel like their Christianity has to be really spoken out, but living it is often the more powerful way to give a little dose of God wherever you go, or look for a little dose of God wherever you go. Either way, if you were to tell somebody who was looking to go into creative field, maybe in radio or programming or something in that field, or just in general, like a overall creative endeavor, what would you say is the biggest key factor that guides and leans towards success?
I wouldn't know the biggest factor, honestly, but I would know, like, there's the small things you can do. You can start a Google Doc with your friend. Maybe you and your friend are both creative together, and then you guys can both add stuff to it every day. Maybe it's notes or something like that. I always just do drafts on Google and Gmail, and I'll write notes all the time. Like, I mean, before this, and I wrote down like 10 notes, stuff I wanted to talk about in a Google draft. It's just, you're not going to think about stuff in the spur of the moment. A good idea can just go away. So you just write it down, especially if you have a dream. Those are a God thing. Sometimes you just wake up from a dream, write it down, because I'm telling you, you're going to forget it. So notes are a big thing. I say it all the time. My friends hate me for it. I don't know if you've been around when I do it, but I always be, guys, hold on, I got to notate something. And then I'll stop down, and something that happened, I'll write it down on my phone. They'll all say that I do that. I mean, it's annoying, but guess what?
Guess what?
When Barbara Corcoran's like, you got a good idea, I'm going to be like, that's why I notated.
Yeah. I wrote that down, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. I mean, you are a really prepared dude, a very prepared person. A lot of times creativity is thought of as something that's just spur of the moment, sparks, staying present in the moment, which there is a lot of that in creative work, is being really open to the room, being ready for whatever it's going to be, like whatever's going to be coming around. But in your case, preparedness has been what has set you up the most for creativity to flourish.
Yeah, you're not going to get sparks during the work week, For me, it just has to grind it out, and then those sparks are going to happen, but it's just really staying true to it, and it's boom, all right, here we go, let's hammer out some ideas for 2 days in advance, not for right now in the moment, because that's impossible. Like, if you were like, right now, give me a good idea, but I don't know. But if I thought about it 2 days ago, I bet I would have had a good idea for you.
Right. Totally.
Take that.
That translates so well, though, to like really any vocation or profession of any kind, though. Just being ready for what you really, really want. If you have a dream or you really are focused on something, being ready for it, not just hoping for it or wishing towards it, or even just working towards it, but being ready all the time, ready for it, and deciding what that means for you. I think that's really translatable. Let's challenge this for a moment before I let you go here.
Yes.
Is there anything on your Google form or your Google Doc, whatever you're Googling, that we did not get to, that you'd like to talk about, that you were prepared
this is
to
so
talk
embarrassing.
about? Let's see this note I'd like to see.
This is so embarrassing.
I'm going to,
this is so embarrassing.
Most people will be listening to this instead of watching it. I'm going to describe this.
Group Google Doc.
We did talk about. Oh my gosh.
Drafts on Google.
Drafts on Google. Okay.
Get ideas from Chick-fil-A guy.
Oh, you did get an idea of, that was the Sound of Music. Yeah.
Once you know amount of ideas you need for the week, then you know how many a day. So that would be 5, a day.
I would like to just make a notation for anyone that's listening and not watching. Ray has a bit of pink in his cheeks right now. I'm just not going to lie.
When we do a bit, I put myself in the car with a mom.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. You did touch on that, on the focus is knowing your audience.
As a producer, we bring a story about a dog because the hosts have dogs. That's so embarrassing.
That's great. Is that all of them?
That's it.
All right. You know what, though? That is a testament to your preparedness because you got to basically all of those things. I think pretty much every single one of those things we got to. Without even really trying for it.
I don't know if that was impressive, if that let the ointment out of the bag. The monkey is out of the ointment.
We'll have to decide if that's bleeped out or not.
Okay.
We will decide later. We'll put on our Ray hat and decide if we can catch that F word or not.
Thank you.
But that's amazing. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you being so prepared.
Thank you for having me.
Hitting up all those points. It would be hard to say where can people catch your work on Bobby Bones Show? Because it's, I think, a little bit at different times at different cities probably, but it's the morning show in over 200 stations across the country.
Right.
And then also there's a podcast. Are you involved in the podcast portion too, or mainly the radio show portion? Yeah,
so the radio show is Monday through Friday, 5 to 10 a.m., shameless plug.
Yep.
The podcast is Sore Losers Podcast. It's a sports podcast, and it's 3 days a week, and you can just find it Sore Losers Podcast. Me and Lunchbox do it.
Yeah, which is so fun. And you recently putting together, or maybe it's already happened, with the Sore Losers podcast. Didn't you do some sort of, the word summit is coming to my mind. That's not what it is, but is it?
I mean, that's a better name for it. We call it a convention, but it's coming up in January.
Amazing.
The 13th through the 12th through the 14th. It is going to be absolutely epic. In Nashville, we got about 80 people coming from around the country.
Awesome.
And we're doing a whole thing at FGL House. We got the Predators involved. Everybody. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that something that people can still get involved with and sign up for or dive into, or is that closed at this point?
No. SoreLosers.com. Shameless plug.
Mm-hmm.
Tickets are there.
Okay. Tickets at SoreLosers.com. Also the podcast, super funny guy. You don't want to miss anything that he might have to say or anything he's prepared to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not funny on the spot. Like I prepared to be somewhat funny.
Well, it's definitely something to check out. Bobby Bones Show, 5 to 10 a.m. In most places. Let's try to see if we can bump up from number 4 to number 3 in 2024.
In the straw list?
In the straw list.
That's
impressive.
I don't
know these people, but
it's the Howard Sterns of the world. It's definitely the morning show, or the out in the East Coast. Yeah, the hip hop station. Yeah,
I feel like I need to come.
Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club. That's what we were trying to figure out earlier. I was forgetting the top 3 because all that really matters is Bobby Bones Show.
Elvis Duran, Breakfast Club, and probably Howard Stern.
And Howard Stern. That was number 1, I will say.
Pat McAfee.
I don't remember that, but well, check out SoreLosers.com and the Bobby Bones Show to hear all the fun, creative ideas that Ray may or may not have been involved in and set up for the crew. I really appreciate your time and your friendship and your humor and your preparedness. You're an amazing creative in the world, and you're appreciated.
Yeah, as friends, we'll have this talk again, but just not with microphones.
Yeah. Yeah, see you later. Thank you so much for checking in with us again for Two in a Pew conversations on faith and creativity. If you head to our Instagram page at Two in a Pew, we'll have some more clips there and links to all things Ray Slater and Bobby Bones Show. We so appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you next time.